Hey, good morning, interpersonal communications class. I'm going to jump right into it because we got a lot of stuff to do today. This is Chapter 9, Preparing a Speech. Now, we do this obviously because public speaking, as we've discussed in the past, going all the way back to Chapter 1, public speaking is part of interpersonal communication. Mass communication is part of interpersonal communication. So what we're going to do today is talk about public speaking and how to prepare a speech. Further classes, the next couple of chapters are going to be dedicated to other aspects of public speaking, how to deliver, how to write a persuasive speech, how to write an informative speech. But today we're going to talk about preparing a speech. So you find out you're going to be given a public speech. Three things what you want to do right off the bat is figure out what your topic is. So our first object and our first goal is to select a topic. Now, this is going to be a general topic. You're not getting specific yet. This is a broad, general topic you want to select. And you're going to consider three things when you're selecting your topic. You're going to want to consider the speaker, which is you, okay? You're going to consider, and I always look because this is one of those words I always misspell, the occasion, and you're going to consider the audience. Now, as far as the speaker is concerned, and a lot of people don't think that this is something you should consider because it's so obvious. But when you're thinking of a topic you want to talk about, you need to think about your experiences, your passions, your interests, your knowledge, okay? You need to think about, what am I going to be comfortable talking about? Because one of the biggest reasons we have such a problem with performance apprehension, and I use the phrase performance apprehension and not stage fright because it's okay to be apprehensive. There's nothing to be afraid of up here. No bears are going to run into the room and eat you while you're giving a public speech, okay? It's performance apprehension. One of the reasons people experience so much performance apprehension is because they pick a topic they're not comfortable with, okay? If you're given free rein to pick a topic, do whatever you want. Do what you like to talk about, okay? If it's part of your job and you're assigned a topic, you would think it would be something that you're knowledgeable about. So pick an aspect of that or a way to deliver it that you're most comfortable with. Now, the occasion is going to include a lot of different things about where, when, and who, and where, when, and under what circumstances you're going to be given the speech. The occasion is going to include things like how many people are going to be there? Is there going to be an open bar? And yes, find out if there's going to be an open bar. If it's an after dinner speech, find out if people are going to be drinking. That's important, okay? Because it completely changes the way you may give your speech, all right? Find out if you're going to be in a classroom. Find out if you're going to be outdoors. Find out if it's going to be in an amphitheater. Find out if you're going to have a public address system or a voice assist system. Okay, find out all those things about where, when, and how you're going to be delivering that speech. That's the occasion. The third thing is the audience. Now, we're about to talk a lot about the audience, but one of the things you need to remember is the audience's state of mind. Again, the first thing you'll do is you'll ask whoever's asking you to speak about the audience. But let's talk a little bit more in depth about audience analysis. Audience analysis may be the single most important thing you do that is the most often overlooked. Because what you have to remember about the audience is your speech has to be tuned to the specific audience, okay? And that's very important because the audience is why you're doing your speech, okay? Too many people I see look like they're giving a speech just so they can hear themselves talk, all right? The audience is the most important part of this because it's the audience that is the reason you're up there giving the speech. So let's talk about the first thing you want to do is identify the audience's initial disposition. Now, we're going to talk about how to find that initial disposition, or at least try to find that initial disposition. But let's talk about what it is to begin with. If you're doing an informal speech, an informative speech, you need to know what the audience already knows so that you can give them more than what they already have. If you don't do that, you may be giving the audience the information that they already have. If you're doing an entertaining speech, okay, you may, and we'll talk about the purposes in just a minute, you need to find out what kind of mood they're going to be in. If you're giving them a persuasive speech, you're going to need to find out where they are on your topic already, attitudinally, okay? So you're going to want to find the audience's initial disposition, and we do that through audience analysis. Audience analysis. Ideally, you should try to tailor each and every message and every speech you give to the exact audience you're going to be speaking to. Let's take an example. I am the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of the Aiken County Regional Hospital, okay? And we're looking to get a $200 million loan, okay? And we're working on getting a $200 million loan to build a new wing to the Aiken County Regional Hospital. This week I'm giving 3 speeches. Speech number 1 is going to be to a group of nursing students at Aiken Technical College, okay? Speech number 2 is going to be to the Chamber of Commerce of Aiken, South Carolina. Speech number 3 is going to be in New York City to a group of bankers to coordinate finance, okay? Speech number 1, I'm talking to nursing students. What am I going to talk to them about to get them on board with our hospital expansion? I'm going to talk about jobs. You want to support this because you will be able to work in Aiken County. We're going to be hiring 128 new nurses, and you can be one of those 128. Speech number 2, Chamber of Commerce. If we expand this hospital, we're going to be able to add 400 more beds. That's going to make Aiken and Aiken County a more attractive place for business. Okay, speech number 3, the bankers in New York. We're asking for a $200 million loan over 30 years. We will. Here's our business plan. Here's our income estimates. Here's how we're going to pay this money off. Okay, you're still talking about the same general topic, but through audience analysis, you've been able to focus exactly what you're going to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about some methodology. I'm going to set that over there so I don't have to walk out of frame when I have a sip of coffee. Okay, so let's talk about some methodology. The first is going to be demographic. Now, demographic analysis is where you break down the audience statistically based on age, gender, religion, group membership, education, occupation, income levels. I've already mentioned gender. Okay, any statistical way you can say 49% are going to be female, 52% are going to be male. In Aiken County, 30% of the people live below the poverty line. Okay. Demographic analysis is anywhere where you can break things down statistically. Now, a great place for demographic information is the Census Bureau. Okay, I think it's uscensus.gov. You can click on and you can drill down to the individual county level or municipality level in some cases, and there's a wealth of demographic information at the Census Bureau. Okay, there's one called psychographic. Psychographic. Now, psychographic analysis involves analyzing and looking at the values, the opinions, the attitudes, and the beliefs. You're also, when you're doing, if you're going to do psychographic analysis, and again, these aren't mutually exclusive, you can do all of them. Psychographic analysis, you will look at pre-existing notions that the audience may hold on your topic. You will also look pre-existing notions the audience has about you personally, okay, or someone who fills your role. All right, when I walk into a classroom, I know that people look at me and they make certain assumptions of who I am just based on how I look, okay? And I know that I need to take that into consideration on the first day of class of every class I teach, okay? The next is going to be situational analysis. We also can call this refer to this as purpose-oriented. Now, situational analysis or purpose-oriented analysis will look at things like how big is the, and this is going to be dealing with specifically with that one audience. Why are they here? How many people are here? Did they volunteer to come? What's the physical setting they're going to be in? Okay, is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? You know, I mean, what are going to be the immediate feelings and attitudes of your audience when you walk in there to begin your speech? Okay? Oh, I screwed up. That's situational analysis. Need to change my notes. Let's talk to what I was. Then with situational analysis, purpose-oriented analysis is a separate thing. Situational analysis will deal with the circumstances that you're giving the speech. Okay. I'm making a note here on my notes so I don't make this mistake next time I give this lecture. Okay. Purpose-oriented analysis is what about my audience is important to the purpose of my speech. Situational analysis, why are they here? Under what circumstances are they going to be here? What's the situation that I'm going to be speaking in? Purpose-oriented analysis, what do I need to know about these people to help me achieve my speech, the goals of my speech? Now, purpose-oriented analysis, obviously going to use situational, psychographic, and demographic. Okay? And like I said, these are all can be used all at one time. They are not mutually exclusive. You do not have to pick one. You should use all four of them. So it's demographic, statistical analysis, psychographic, the audience's values and ideas about your topic and about you personally, situational analysis, which deals with why they're there and where they are, and then purpose-oriented analysis, what do I need to focus on in this audience so that I can achieve my purpose. The purpose is not the purpose of the audience, but the purpose of the speaker. Okay? So it's demographic, psychographic, situational, and purpose-oriented. Okay, so let's talk about sources of data. Where are you going to get all this information? Okay, well, where do you get information about what's going on in your neighborhood? It's the exact same thing. There's mass media, TV stations, websites, newspapers. Okay, those are things that are broadcast out to a large audience. If I was coming, if it was a flip side and I was coming from New York to give a speech about how the best way to finance a hospital expansion, and I knew nothing about Aiken County, South Carolina, I would go to the Aiken Standard. I would go to, is it the North Augusta Star, the newspaper for North Augusta. Knowing that Aiken is so close to Augusta, I'd even look at the Augusta Chronicle. I'd look at all the local TV stations. I'd just click through and examine the big stories that are being tracked here in the Central Savannah River area. I would look at other big websites for the area. You can even go look at the Facebook pages of the Aiken County government. Aiken County, City of Aiken, Augusta, Richmond County, North Augusta City, they've all got Facebook pages. They're all involved in social media now. So go look at their social media accounts and find out what's going on. I would look at the official websites of Aiken County. Aiken County, now, if you go to some smaller counties, like if you go out to Tolliver County out in further west in Georgia, if you go to, maybe Allenby County down south of here, sometimes those counties don't have websites. They're so small. They just have their own Facebook pages. I know, like, if you go over to Rennes in Georgia, which is about 100 yards in any direction when you're standing at the intersection, Rennes Police Department does not have its own Facebook webpage. They have a Facebook account where they post everything you need to know about. So all of that is available on the internet. Okay, you can get the background on the organization that you're speaking to, and how do you get that? You pick up the phone and you talk to them, or you Google them and find out what information about them. There's public opinion polls, but we're going to talk about public opinion polls a little bit later. Be very careful of using public opinion because they're not facts. We're going to discuss that later on. You can do interviews. You can hold focus groups. You can look at other people who have done similar things to you in other areas that are similar. So there's a lot of places to get data, okay, in addition to some of the ones that we've already talked about, like the Census Bureau. Okay, so then we wind up with, we've got all this, so what are you going to do with this? You're going to do audience adaptation. Audience adaptation. Now, When I say audience adaptation, I am not specifically talking in any way, shape, or form about changing your basic message. You should never change yourself or change what you're saying to meet the expectations of the audience. What I'm talking about when I say audience adaptation is you may want to change the supporting materials you use. Because if you're talking to a group of nursing students at Aiken Tech, you do not need to cite the same, you will not cite the same sources. It is as if you're talking to a group of thoracic surgeons at the hospital. You might want to change your organization of your speech. Okay? You may want to skim over some stuff if you know that the audience has a deep background in your topic. You don't need to go through the introductory parts. Go through that really quickly and then get to the meat of what you're really talking about so that you can dwell on it, okay? And then you want to do audience adaptation. And here's the key thing about audience adaptation. You're going to want to you're going to want to look at the audience in the speech. And you're even going to talk to the audience after the speech. Audience adaptation is an ongoing process. I want you to remember that. Audience adaptation is an ongoing process. Because even if you're never going to come back and speak to this group again, you're probably going to be given a similar speech at some point in time in the future. Okay? So audience adaptation is an ongoing process. All right, and you're doing it during your speech because if you look over here and you've got people in the room nodding off, you need to adapt to that audience fairly quickly. If you've got people that look like they're getting mad, remember this is a dialogue. This is interpersonal communication. You are face to face with these people. Use that to your advantage. Okay? All right. So we've considered the speaker. We've considered the occasion. We've done our audience analysis. Now it's time to come up with the purpose, the general purpose of our speech. Okay? Oh, well, dropping everything here. Hold on a second. The speech will have 3 possible general purposes. The first is to inform. Now, an informative speech is simply to give information. Okay? It's just to say, I have information A, I need to give it to you. That is all an informative speech is. You are just transmitting information to the audience. That's all. Close quotes, in the sentence, that's it. Okay? The next type is to entertain. Now, an entertaining speech just allows the audience to sit back, relax, and have a good time and enjoy themselves. Now, some entertaining speeches are funny. Many of them are. Other entertaining speeches can be inspirational. They can be motivational. Okay? A lot of people would say Tony Robbins, the great self-help guru, gives an informative speech. I've seen him before. I would tend to think that, it's more of a pep rally than it is an informative speech. He's there to motivate you. He wants you to go buy his books. It's also persuasive. There's no doubt about that. You may even say it's mostly persuasive. But again, those speeches are there just to motivate you, okay? And that's an entertaining speech, okay? Just to get you fired up, okay? Then finally, and we're going to be talking about more about this in the future, is a persuasive speech. A persuasive speech is to have, to give you a change of behavior or a change of attitude, okay? Every single one of a persuasive speech should end with a call to action. Okay? In other words, when I finish my persuasive speech, and we'll talk about this, I think it's next week in chapter 10, I need you to get out there and either think this way or do something. Okay? And that call to action is the last thing you say in a persuasive speech. Because when they get, the one thing they're going to remember when it's all said and done is the last thing you said, and you want that to be your call to action. Okay, so there's 3 general purposes to that you can have: informative, entertaining, and persuasive. Now, can an informative speech be entertaining? Can a persuasive speech be informative? Can an entertaining speech be persuasive? Absolutely. But you have to pick one to focus on. Okay? You can have a persuasive speech and then find out what your persuasive goal is and then say, okay, I'm going to do this in an entertaining fashion. But if you say I'm going to be both persuasive and entertaining, you're not going to do either very well. Okay? So when you're picking your general purpose of your speech, pick one. Inform, entertain, persuade. Pick a secondary one, that's fine, but always pick a primary one. Okay? So we've stepped through the first part of our process. Okay? We have considered our, when we pick our general topic, we consider our speaker, which is us. We consider the occasion. We consider the audience. Okay? Then we start looking at our general purpose, and we do our audience analysis, and we've talked about that in great detail. Then once you do your audience analysis, that's the third thing you're going to look at. You pick your general topic, okay? And that's, you pick whatever you want to talk about, smoking, diet, whatever, and then you pick your general purpose. Yeah, to persuade, so it's, let me write this down so that I get it clear, and this is to clarify for me as much as it is for you. So we're going to pick our topic, our general topic. And in that we're going to consider the speaker, the occasion, and the audience. And that will involve audience analysis. Then after we pick our general topic, we're going to pick our general purpose. Okay? Then our general purpose can be to entertain, to inform, or to persuade. Okay? Next, we're going to pick our specific purpose. Our specific purpose. Now, your specific purpose is answering the question, what do I want to have happen in this speech? What do I want my audience to know when the speech is done? How do I want my audience to feel when I'm through talking? What do I want my audience to do? Okay, remember, you're working in those three general purposes. Entertain. What do I want my audience to feel when we're done? Inform. What do I want my audience to know when we're done? And then to persuade. What do I want my audience to do? Or what attitude do I want them to have when I'm finished? So we start talking about our specific purpose. Okay? Then, in order to make sure we can meet our specific purpose, we start doing research. We do research. Okay? Research and evidence in a speech gives us a lot of things. Research will give us clarity. Clarity allows us to say 82% of people in Aiken County as opposed to a lot or most. Okay? It gives us credibility. I do not know how to dunk a basketball. Never have dunked a basketball. I have reached a point in my life where I'm comfortable that I never will be able to dunk a basketball. So if I want to talk about how to dunk a basketball, and I tell you, you're going to look at me like I've gone insane. But if I quote Kobe Bryant, if I quote LeBron, if I quote Michael, if I quote any of those guys on how to dunk a basketball, I'm pretty, that's a credible source, and I can borrow from their credibility. Much like clarity, it gives us accuracy. Okay? Citing evidence in a speech gives us accuracy. In other words, it allows us to say 75.8% instead of most. Okay? All right? It gives us authority. The more we can quote clear, credible, accurate evidence, we begin to take on the mantle of being an authority on the subject. Okay. After a while, and there's a ethos, pathos, and logos. It's what Aristotle talked about. Eventually, we begin to become we can borrow their credibility and their clarity and their accuracy, and we become an authority on the topic. Okay. It gives us currency, and I don't mean currency as in voltage, and I don't mean currency as in money. I mean currency as in keeping up to date. Okay? It allows us to find the best information that's the most recent information. A lot of times I see statistics and things where people, in political opinions even, where people are quoting things that were disproven years ago. Okay? And you just point out that these things were disproven and they go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, okay, you should have known that. You're standing in front of this audience giving a speech on it. You should be up to date. And you stay up to date. You stay current through research. Okay? Then it allows us to be vivid. It gives us vividness. I can't talk in any detail about the horrors of fighting in World War II. Okay? No one on the planet anymore can talk about what it was like to serve in the trenches in World War I. The last veteran of the trenches of World War I died, I think, about 6 or 7 years ago. Okay, he was a British soldier, and he died, and he was the last ground combat veteran of World War I. That's all gone. No one can ever speak to that anymore. But by citing their memoirs and by reading their autobiographies and going back to that primary source, okay, we can get that vivid accounts of things. Okay? Vividness means you're keeping it real and you're making it really real so that the people in your audience almost feel like they're there. Okay? So research and evidence gives us clarity, credibility, accuracy, authority, currency, and vividness. Okay? All right. So, a couple of things about how to use it. Okay? Cite your source. And don't just say according to Bob Smith. Say according to Dr. Bob Smith, the head of your neuroscience at Johns Hopkins University. Okay? You're going to remember when we talk about credibility, we're going to try to borrow the credibility of the people involved, the people we're citing. Well, you have to give their credentials. You can't borrow their credibility if you don't give their credentials. So borrow their credibility by giving their full, by citing your source and giving the full details of your source. Okay? Be specific. Even if if it seems like it's almost counterproductive, okay? If I say most, most could be anywhere from, 51% to 90%. All right? So maybe you think, people are going to think I'm saying 90% or at least 75%. And it's really 51%. But, a lot of research has shown that if you say 51%, it makes you more credible. Okay? So be specific. All right? And then use unfamiliar evidence. Okay, we've all been told, for most of us, since the day we were born, that smoking causes cancer, smoking causes heart disease, smoking causes diabetes. We've all seen the pictures of these are healthy lungs. Well, they're not that healthy if you can take a picture of them laying on a table. These are lungs of a smoker, and they're these black charcoal briquettes that are sitting next to them. We've all seen that before. Once you hear something over and over, if it didn't persuade you the first 3,000 times you heard it, it's not going to persuade you the next time you hear it. Okay? So I was driving down Highway 19 in Florida. Highway 19 runs inside, is the Gulf Coast Road. It runs down West Florida, all the way from I-10 all the way down to Tampa. And a lot of that is rural pine forest. It's just out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm driving along, and there's this billboard on the side of the road, and it says in big bold letters, if you smoke 2 packs a day, the money you spend in 2 years would buy you a new fishing boat. I was like, what, wait? What? Hold on a second, 2 packs a day? You're supposed to tell me that if I smoke 2 packs a day, I'm going to die 12 years early. That's what all those evidence always point to. But this was something kind of different, and it caught my attention and made me look. A couple of miles later, it said, if you smoke 2 packs a day, in 6 months, you could buy new tires for your truck. I was, and there was another one. If you smoke 2 packs a day, in a year, you could afford a new ATV. It has got a picture of an ATV there. Now, they tailored these for each environment they were in. Those were very rural. There was one in downtown Tampa that said if you smoke 2 packs a day, in 6 months, you could buy a new flat screen TV set. This was unfamiliar evidence to me. And I looked at it, and I quit smoking 30 years ago, so it didn't really have any impact on me. But I saw that as being a really new and innovative way of providing unfamiliar evidence. Was it medical evidence? No, it wasn't. It was completely new evidence, okay? I think the medical case for stop smoking has been made over and over again. But I think this sort of created a new and different idea among people that would allow them to see it in a new light, okay? All right, so let's talk about what kind of evidence you're going to use. Types of evidence. Okay? There's opinions. Now, opinions are usually, when we say opinions, we think of expert opinions. Okay? An expert opinion is someone who is knowledgeable on the subject. Okay? If I want to talk about things that are going on at the Savannah River nuclear site, I would ask a nuclear physicist. I would find somebody and I say, according to Dr. John Smith, who teaches nuclear physics at the Georgia Institute of Technology, okay, according to Dr. Jane Johnson, who is a nuclear physicist that works at the Oak Ridge Nuclear Facility, okay, that's an expert opinion. And those are perfectly good opinions. But then we also have what we call lay opinions, okay? Lay opinions. And a lay person is someone who is not an acknowledged expert on the subject. We oftentimes hear this in a church setting as a lay minister. And a lay minister is someone who's not an ordained minister but gets to get up and preach. Okay? Lay opinions are perfectly valid. Don't. A lot of people say if it's not an expert opinion, don't use it. But you can do great interviews and talk to people, and it makes it really real. And if it wasn't for lay opinions, local television news would be out of business. Because you've all seen this. When a lay opinion, when someone comes up, and they're standing at the gas station, and they throw it to the local reporter at the gas station, and they're standing there with their microphone going, thanks, Bob. Today we're out here at the Chevron station here on Washington Road in Evans, and we're talking to people about how the increasing gas prices are going to affect their family. Hi, how is the increasing gas prices going to affect your family? Well, I'm going to be spending more money on gas and not as much money on food. And that happens all the time. Biggest Jeff Foxworthy joke in the world is, what did the tornado sound like when it went over? Okay? That's a lay opinion. All right? And lay opinions give you context and color and personal impact. So don't discount lay opinions. Okay? The next is going to be public opinion. All right. We most often see public opinion expressed through polling. Okay? And, I'm a news junkie. Every morning when I'm watching the Morning Joe show, okay, they've got a new poll to discuss about whether or not Elizabeth Warren is leading Joe Biden. How many people want to have President Trump thrown out of office? Every day it's a new public opinion poll. Just remember one thing. Public opinion polls are not facts. Okay? Let me say that again. Public opinion polls are not facts. They're not even a fact about how many people want something to happen. Okay, if I come in and I say, according to the Gallup poll, 54% of people like Coca-Cola more than Pepsi. Okay? I don't know that for sure. I've gone ask out of 330 million people in this country. I have, if Gallup does a survey of professional, Quinnipiac, CBS, any of the big polling organizations, if they go out and do a quote-unquote national survey to come back and say, well, 54% of people prefer Coke over Pepsi, okay? They've only talked about 1,000 people, okay? So public opinion isn't really even a fact about what people are thinking. It's an estimate about what people are thinking, okay? So one of the types of evidence we have is going to be opinions. The next type is going to be statistics. Now, everybody knows what a statistic is. You know, the old saying is there are lies, damn lies, and then there are statistics, okay? Statistics are good, okay? You need to make sure you vary the numbers you use, but a couple of cautionary statements about statistics. If you don't know the difference between the median, the mean, and the average, if those three words all mean the same thing to you, you need to be very careful about using statistics. Round off where possible, okay? 72.734. It's okay to say that's 72%. 72.7%. It's okay to say it's 73%, okay? It is not okay to say, well, I can round 73 up to 75, so that's 75%. Don't do multiple roundings like that, okay? It's also okay to say if it's even more ethical to say if it's 64.4%, it's perfectly ethical to say almost 65%. Okay? So round off, but be very ethical about the way you round off. Last thing about statistics. So we've said that you need to use statistical measures correctly, cite the sources of your statistic. Oh yeah, cite the sources of your statistics, because if you say 28% of the people in Aiken County live below the poverty line, people know you didn't come up with that number on your own. You got that number somewhere. You need to tell us where you got it from. Okay? You need to convert, you want to round the numbers where possible, but factual data, convert statistics to concrete data whenever possible. Okay? 28% of people in Aiken County live below the poverty line. Okay, that's a nice statistic. 28% or 38,000 people in Aiken County live below the poverty line. Okay, that's a concrete number. That's a number we can deal with. Okay, we throw away 1 million plastic water bottles a day. That's enough plastic water bottles to fill whatever the stadium is at the University of South Carolina every day, 365 days a year. You know, every day we throw away enough to fill a football stadium. Okay? If we laid all the water bottles we throw away in a day, end to end, it would reach from Columbia, South Carolina to Denver, Colorado. Okay? That's concrete. It makes it more, we can grasp that easier. Okay? So we've got opinions, we've got statistics, and last we have what we call factual data. Factual data. Okay? Factual data is something we can prove in the real world. It can be verified. But I will warn you, go verify them if you can, because people lie and people say things so just to prove their point, even if it's not true. Not everybody is as ethical as you are. Working on the premise that we're all, everybody watching this is ethical. Okay? So factual data is things that can be verified, things that can be proven. Water freezes at 32 degrees. Okay? That's verifiable. Water boils at 212 degrees, 32 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius. We can prove that. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees centigrade. We can prove that. Okay? Do we need to verify that ourselves? That's probably an accepted fact. Okay? But something else we may want to go verify on our own. Okay. Now, I'm going to say one quick thing about a source of this. Don't be afraid to use your personal knowledge and personal experiences when you're doing research, okay? It's very important that you be able to talk about things personally, okay? Yeah, you're going to want to do primary research where you go out there and either interview people to get their primary information directly from them, or you're going to do the experimentation yourself. That's fine. Or you're going to want to do secondary research where you go out and read articles from people who did the primary research, okay? But you're also going to want to use your personal experiences. If you've been homeless and you want to talk about homelessness, use your personal experience, okay? If you're talking about drug addiction and you've had an addiction in the past, talk about that if you're comfortable about it. Make it real to them. Because remember that clarity, authority, credibility, all of that, your personal experience is perfectly valid. Okay? Man, covered a lot of stuff today. All right. Oh, we got two more things we got to talk about. Well, no, we got a couple more things we got to talk about. All right? So, first of all, here's some guidelines. Yeah, I'm going to skip that. All right, one of the things I'm going to go over real quickly, visual aids, okay? 3 rules about using visual aids. Number 1, 3 things about using never talk to the visual aid. Now remember, I turn my back all the time to write on the board. I am not giving a speech. I am giving a lecture. They are 2 completely different things. But, PowerPoint makes the, General Mattis, who was he was later Secretary of Defense Mattis, was my boss down at CENTCOM, and he used to say PowerPoint makes us stupid. Because what happens when you put a PowerPoint slide up, you say, okay, if you look at my PowerPoint slide, and then the person completely turns their back on the audience. And they talk like this and say, well, if you'll notice this part up here, okay, and they completely let the visual aid become the audience. Never talk to your visual aid. Second of all, don't hand out anything. Now, if you're going to do a handout and if you want to give them something to take away after your speech, give it to them after the speech. Because if you give it to them before the speech or during the speech, they're just going to be reading your handout. They're not listening to you anymore. Okay? Also, never, ever, ever say, oh, I've got a couple of examples here. I'm going to pass them around the class. What's going to happen from that point forward? All the audience is doing is going like, oh, where's that thing you was passing around? When do I get to see it? And they're looking for where the thing is you passed out. If you want to show them examples, you say, hey, I've got a couple examples up here. I'm going to keep them on this table so when the speech is over, if you want to come by and look at them, you can. Don't hand things out during your speech. It's never going to work out well. Save anything you want them to put in their hands for after the speech. Okay? Always be able to do your speech without the visual aids. Okay? We've all seen this happen on local news reporting where the video feed goes down and the anchors just like, they don't know what to say because it was all on the videotape. Okay? A news anchor should be able to go and give their speech without the visual aids. If these projectors in these rooms that we have here at Aiken Technical College burn out on a fairly regular basis. The reason I go with a dry erase marker and the whiteboard or chalk and a blackboard is because I know this is never going to break. Okay, I keep spares all the time. Okay, but if you have PowerPoint and suddenly your projector burns out, you need to be able to push through that. Okay, had a good friend of mine had a bunch of flip charts and everything, and he was like super hardcore ready to go, and then his car he had put everything in his trunk the night before so he wouldn't forget him. That night, and this is not a joke, this actually happened, his car got struck by lightning, and somehow or the other that caused the electronic lock on the trunk to open, and it popped up. And he said when he walked out there, and he had all his beautiful flip charts sitting in about 1.5 inches of water in his trunk, and they were all ruined. He had to be there in 2 hours and give that speech. He gave his entire speech without any flip charts, said it was a fantastic experience. Okay? He said it actually freed him up to where he didn't have to worry about the flip charts. He actually engaged with the audience more. Okay? So be able to do your speech without three rules of visual aids. Never talk to the visual aid. Never hand your visual aids out so that people can handle them or hand anything out during a speech. Then finally, be prepared to do your speech without any visual aids, because you never know when your visual aids are going to catch on fire and burn or something. Okay? All right. Last thing we're headed in for. How to organize. Once you've done all your research, okay, remember we're walking through this process. Okay? How long have we been at this? Are we up to an hour yet? No. We got one more thing. We're going to talk about how to organize your stuff, and then we're going to talk about, and then we'll save outlining for next week. Okay? So we'll still have a little leftover from Chapter 9 next week. But let's talk about organization. Okay, so you've gone through all the steps. You've picked your general purpose. You've picked your general topic by looking at the speaker, the occasion, and the audience. You've done your audience analysis, that demographic, that psychographic, that situational, the purpose-oriented. You've done your research. You've gone to mass media sites. You've gone to local libraries. You've done interviews with local people. You looked at local social media. Then you've begun to you've taken all that research, and you've got everything that you researched. You've got all your statistics. You've got your facts, your factual data. You've got your opinions. So now it's time to start organizing things. Okay, a couple of ways to organize a speech. First of all, chronologically. Chronologically is in time order of occurrence. In time order of occurrence. Okay. Now, a lot of people, when I ask what's a good topic for time order of occurrence, they say, well, the history of the Civil War, the history of the Revolutionary War, the history of the Great Depression. And history is true. You can march through and talk about the Civil War starting, if you want, depending on where you want to start it. If you want to start it where people were actually shooting at each other, you started at Fort Sumter, you ended at Appomattox Courthouse, and you just move through that process. Okay? Absolutely true. Okay? Here's another good thing for chronological. Okay? A process that you have to follow the steps in order. Okay, when I went through basic training years ago, okay, they had this thing called, we had to know how to clear our weapons in combat. And we were trained on how to do that. And they came up with this acronym, SPORTS. Slap the magazine, pull the charging handle on your weapon, observe the chamber to make sure it was clear, release the chamber, tap the forward assist button to make sure the bolt was seated, and then squeeze the trigger to fire the next round. And if it didn't fire, you did, and that is a chronological development. Slapping, pulling, observing, releasing, tapping, squeezing. Those have to follow in order. Okay? Let's say you want to teach somebody how to change a tire. You don't teach them how to put the lug nuts on in that. Everybody knows that if you've got 5 lug nuts, you do 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4. You skip every other lug nut as you go around, okay? You don't start there. That's the end of the process. You start with, hey, get a couple of bricks or a log or a big rock and chock the wheels before you do anything else, because you don't want it rolling and falling over on you, okay? Then you make sure, then and then there's you break the lug nuts on the wheel that's flat before you get it up in the air, because then it's just going to spin. So you break the lug nuts, you put the jack under, you have to do those things in order. Okay? What do you do in case of a fire? You get up, orderly leave the room, You exit through the nearest exit, and then you assemble at your appropriate assembly point. You don't. Okay, we're going to assemble, and when we're all done, we're going to assemble at the appropriate assembly point. We're all going to stand up. We're going to exit through this door here. You don't do it that. You do it in chronological order. So chronological order works very well for processes that need to be given in order. Okay? The next is going to be in narrative order. Now, this goes back to a psychological concept called narrative theory. And narrative theory says that humans remember better if you tell them a story. Okay? And we know all of that. I mean, if you read the Bible, a parable is giving a lesson by telling a story. We do this all the time in the Army. The Army gives tactical and technical lessons with comic books where you see people and they give them names and they give them characters. Okay, it's you have to give characters, setting, plots. You make up stories to illustrate a point because we may not remember any details, but if you give us somebody that we can follow through the process. Okay, everybody has seen Schoolhouse Rock. I'm only a bill. You make the bill as it progresses through both houses of Congress to the president for signing. You make the bill a person. You tell a story about that. And all Schoolhouse Rock was making things, giving it a narrative. Okay? All right, then there's a broad open one called topic order. Topic order, just put things in an appropriate order by their divisions and by categories. So if I wanted to talk about fruit, I could organize them as tropical fruit, subtropical fruits. Well, that's getting into spatial order. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, Aiken Technical College has 5 schools: general education, nursing, rad tech, surgical tech. You give the divisions of the school and you talk about them in order. Okay, so topic order is where things are sort of naturally broken down into some sort of a division. Okay, if we wanted to talk about mammals, we could talk about land-born mammals and sea-born mammals, and things like that. Okay, the next is going to be a spatial pattern. Spatial pattern is organizing your speech as the objects you're talking about or the issues you're talking about are organized in real space juxtaposed to each other. Okay, let's say we want to talk about flooding in the Mississippi River, on the Mississippi River. First, we're going to talk about the headwaters of the Mississippi in Minnesota. Then we're going to move to the central Mississippi River in and around St. Louis. And then we're going to move to the Mississippi Delta in Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Okay? North to south. Okay? You can go east to west. Hey, today we're going to talk about the major geographic features of the United States. We're going to start on the Atlantic coast. We're going to move through the Appalachian Mountains. We're going to talk about the Great Plains, and then we're going to talk about the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada Mountains on the west coast. Okay, east to west. All right, spatial pattern. One of the training I got over and over. Whenever I went overseas, I had to go through an anti-terrorism course, so I had to learn how to check my vehicle to see if it had been tampered with. You start at the front bumper, you go to the grill, you go to the hood, you go to the windshield, you go around to the right-hand side, front right fender, wheel well, door, glass door, side to side, top to bottom. Okay, you move around to the fender, you go from the top to the bottom. You move to the door, top to the bottom. You move to the next door, top to the bottom. Move to the back fender, top to the bottom. Go back around to the front. Left fender, front fender, top to bottom. Door, top to bottom. Door, top to bottom. Fender, top to bottom. Back around to the back end, top of the, all the way down to the bottom. Okay? It was spatially organized because if you just run around looking at different things, okay, you would never make sure that everything was covered. Okay? Then there's causal pattern. We normally see causal pattern as cause and effect. Okay? We don't, oftentimes what I would tell you is if you're giving a speech, do effect then cause. Okay? Because if you do effect then cause, you get the impact and the significance up front. I don't care what the cause is if you can't prove to me it's significant to me and it's having a big effect. So let's get the effect up front. Then you may be asking yourself, what causes this great problem? Okay? All right, causal pattern also lends straight into problem solution. And I really shouldn't have to explain that more. You talk about a problem, then you talk about the solution. That's really straightforward. Okay? The last one we're going to talk about is motivated sequence. Okay, now the motivated sequence was developed by a guy named Alan H. Monroe. Made a ton of money out of it because you have seen the motivated sequence when you went to a car dealership, a cell phone dealership, something. The motivated sequence has 5 basic steps. Okay? Attention, need, okay, satisfaction, visualization, okay, and the last one is action. Okay, car dealership, this is how it works. Attention, it's where it's just like an attention device. It's just where you get someone's attention and show that you're beginning communication with them. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to, and again, I'm going to use this as an example. Don't take this. Okay, I'll make up a, hey, welcome to Johnson Ford. How you doing today? Or I know, let's not go with Ford. Let's go. Anyway. Hi, welcome to Johnson Toyota. How you doing today? My name's Bob. I'm a sales associate here at Johnson Ford, so I've established attention. What can I help you with today? Oh, okay. You're here to buy a new car. Can I ask you, what kind of a car do you drive now? Okay, a 2002 Honda Civic. Wow, that car's 17 years old. Okay, how many miles? Do you mind if I ask how many miles you have on it? Wow, 160,000 miles. Okay, so at 160,000 miles, you're probably already well aware that you're about to start having a lot of expensive repairs on that car. You know, at 160 miles, the Civics specifically start having problems with the transmission. You're probably going to need to get that catalytic converter replaced. Here in the South, in South Carolina, has it been in South Carolina most of the time? It has. The humid weather here causes corrosions in the electrics. So now you're really getting to where, getting a new car is a great idea for you. Absolutely a great idea, okay? So he's established a need, okay? What kind of car are you looking to get into? Are you looking to get in something similar to the Civic? Because we got a lot of Toyotas here. I'll tell you, their Tercel, the Camry, they all fit perfectly. Just what kind of car are you looking to get into? Okay, something kind of similar. So we could go look at the Camrys. How much money were you planning on spending? Oh yeah, we can get you a Camry. We can get you into the base model Camry without any problems whatsoever. Hey, so let's walk over to the Camrys. Now this is a little bit, this is a couple of $1,000s more than I think you said. But this is really in your ballpark, I think. This is a Camry. It's the S model. So it's got a couple of bells and whistles on it. But what you're going to find as you look at it, those things are really comfort factor. They're going to give you a lot more versatility with the things you can do with the car. So here's what, why don't you just take a look at it. The window's already rolled out. Well, you know what? The best way to see the inside of this car is to go ahead and sit down in it. So go ahead and sit down, take a look at it, look at all the steering wheel, and just turn it on. You don't have to turn it all the way up. Just click it to where the accessories all come on. Bells and whistles start popping. And when he does that, he shuts the door. So you're now inside the car in visualization. He talks to you a little bit about the car, talks to you about how great it is to drive, and then he says he's going to jump to real visualization. Hey, let me go get a tag so we can take it for a drive. And before you can say, I've got a doctor's appointment in an hour, he is halfway to the front office getting a tag to stick on the car, and then you take it for a test drive. Okay? And that's helping you visualize you owning the car. And then he gets to action. So, Mr. Smith, let me ask you a question. What's it going to take to get you to buy that car today? Okay? We've all seen that. It's in 5 steps. It's usually used for persuasive. You can use it for an informative speech, where the need is you need to know more about this. Okay? All right? So, those are everything. How long have I been on here? Yeah, 1 hour. That's about enough to stare at YouTube for one day. We will talk about outlining tomorrow. I had a lot of stuff going on this week. I haven't read ahead and looked at the exercises. When I post this video, if there's an exercise where you really need to deal with outlining, we'll go ahead and knock that out. I'll post that when I post it. Don't forget, you guys have my email address. So email it into me. By the time when I post this, I'll also open the Chapter 9 discussion boards. So let's get those done by Thursday noon. And we'll cover outlining, and then we'll jump on into Chapter 10. Hopefully Chapter 10 will go a little bit quicker because I think the information is a little bit more condensed. So, okay? Good deal, and we will see you soon.